Hi, I'm Scott Ott with Stephen Green and Bill Whittle, and this episode of Right Angle's Backstage pre-production meeting is brought to you and for you, the members of, brought to you by and for you to the members at BillWhittle.com, hither heretofore. Ladies and gentlemen, this week, actually, our own Bill Whittle has gets to host the members only episode, and so we deferred to him, and we'll allow him to steal the good topics. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Two stories I think I want to deal with. Obviously, a lot of discussion about the whole Trump-Pelosi shout match, which I know has been called by somebody who's not me, and I'm grateful for that. But I want to talk about one specific issue that came up, and that is the issue as to whether or not President Trump has the authority as commander-in-chief to build that wall. Is this, in fact, a national security issue? Is this, in fact, an actual invasion? One of the pithier things I felt that I always said was that, we have to have a wall because the progressives won't let us have a border. That arguing back and forth, oh, no, we're going to have great security, says Schumer. No, we'll have fantastic border security, says Pelosi. But you're not running on border security, Pelosi or Schumer. When you talk to your constituents, you talk about open cities and sanctuary states and all the rest of it. So I think what I'm really getting at is, in so many ways, the Democrats are pushing the president into a corner, and I think you can make a compelling case for this being a national security issue, a Pentagon issue.
Bill,
a lot to unpack there.
I was just going to say, Bill, I don't live in a urban area near the border, but when I hear from my conservative friends who live in a place like Los Angeles or whatever, all around them, they see the negative impact of unfettered immigration. And one has to wonder whether Nancy Pelosi's base, who live in the same places as my conservative inner city friends do,
no, they don't.
Do not see it, or they see it and they're not with her.
You don't have any friends that live anywhere near Nancy Pelosi.
Well, I don't mean near Nancy Pelosi.
No, I'm telling you, the people you know are as far removed from Nancy Pelosi and her lifestyle as people in Botswana. They have absolutely different set of complaints. Nancy Pelosi and her ilk live in fortified compounds on top of hills in San Francisco, surrounded by probably the richest corporate tax base on the planet. And to say that they have the same problems as people in San Diego or Los Angeles, it's just not true.
That's not what I'm saying, though, because there aren't that many of her ilk. So she needs to get a lot of votes from a lot of people who live in normal places. And she needs to get that support not only in her district, but she needs to get that support in congressional Democrats throughout the country so that she can be Speaker of the House and be able to lead those people. And I just wonder, is it really a Republican lives in this neighborhood, a Democrat lives in this neighborhood. The Republican says this place has gone to hell in a handbasket because of illegal immigration. The Democrat says everything's fine. We should welcome more of them in.
Well, see, this is my point. If the progressive view is correct, then why during this conversation did Schumer and Pelosi say, no, we're going to have border security. No, it's very important. No, we agree. It's absolutely important. Why didn't they say, Donald, don't you understand the whole idea of a wall is insane. We want as many people to come into the country as easily as possible. We want unlimited immigration. It's much better for the country, and here's why. How come they didn't go down that road? That's the actual issue. Right? We run as conservatives. We govern as liberals. This is the way that Pelosi and Schumer operate. When they're pushed to on camera to defend their open borders position, they simply say, no, we'll have tremendous border security. You can rest assured. The experts say that a wall doesn't work, but believe me, it'll be tremendous border security.
But they're getting the votes, so I've got to think that who are these people voting for them? Are they people who see the situation around them and hate it, but are induced to vote for these open border people out of white guilt?
Yes. So the Democratic coalition, I can only speak for California, the Democratic coalition that runs the state with an iron fist is composed of low-income people who are promised benefits in exchange for their votes, and they are ruled by a very, very small group of exceedingly wealthy individuals who never have to deal with the consequences of things like open borders or unlimited homeless immigrants into their particular cities.
The middle class has been squashed out of California.
If you think Gavin Newsom has to step among the human waste that is littering the streets of San Francisco, you've got another thing coming. Because if he did, he would think differently. I've actually become convinced that this distance between them is in fact their prime motivation. That on some level, the worse the world and the uglier and the some lovely filth down here, Dennis, the more the world turns that way for them, the more like princes and baronesses they actually feel.
Well, Bill, it was back in the early days of our other network, early days of this show, the old show, that I said that progressivism had become a form of high-tech feudalism.
That's exactly what it is.
And it's getting worse and worse every day.
Yes.
I was just thinking, it doesn't, Bill, in that scenario, the only way that can play out in the Democrats' favor is to go to an almost feudalistic state where they have much more control, because at some point the peasants revolt. And if you don't already have all the tools to keep the revolt down, then you're doomed, because then you're in the guillotine.
The peasants revolt. The peasants revolt when the peasants are working hard to feed the elites, but that's not the deal that these elites are offering. The elites are offering to feed the peasants. You see how it works? That's the difference. It's not like the peasants are out there toiling in the fields under medieval conditions day and night and handing over a few scrawny chickens and grape-sized potatoes. No, what the Democrats are basically saying to people is, no, we'll give you all these benefits. It's going to come to $30,000, $40,000 a year worth of income. You have to. Somebody did a study, said you have to make 40, 50 grand in order to live as well as you could if you live completely on government benefits. Why would the peasants ever revolt in this case?
Well, to hear conservatives say it is because your kid may get knifed on his way to school by an illegal immigrant.
Yes.
Do you actually think that Nancy Pelosi has kids or grandchildren that walk to school?
No, not her. Her base of support.
Then now you know why she's voting for it. And if you think her base of support in San Francisco is also worried about having their kids knifed on the way to school, they are not worried about this at all, because it's very difficult to have some guy with a knife penetrate an armor-proof limousine. I mean, an up-armored limousine.
So the poor don't vote for Democrats at all, is what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying the poor vote for Democrats because the Democrats offer them benefits, and they think that this is and furthermore, they're told that most of the poor people hate Democrats, but they're told that if the Republicans come to power, then they're going to lose all of their benefits and also probably end up back on the plantation in bonds, just the way Uncle Joe Biden promised them.
It's liberty versus security, and so many people choose security because they just don't
Precisely. That's
understand.
the entire equation right there.
That's on us. That's our failure.
Fair enough.
I mean, and if anybody should be, accustomed to doing this by now, it should be me. But it's really hard sometimes to stretch my head around, like, what is she thinking? Like, how could this? What universe does this work out okay?
Scott, there is and I mean a large number of Americans for whom the American dream consists of one thing. For millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of Americans, the American dream consists of one thing, and that one thing is having a doctor state that you are disabled. That is the American dream. If you can have a medical statement of disability, you are golden as far as millions and millions and millions of Americans are concerned. That means you never have to work again. I'm not, and of course the people who really pay for this are the actually disabled people. I'm not talking about them. Yeah. I'm talking about people who are looking for a medical statement of disability which entitles them to essentially endless benefits. That's the American dream now, is how can I get a disability ruling, because that's the jackpot. And I've seen videos of people coming home and telling their families that the court ruled that they're disabled, and then they stand up and cheer, hooray.
I was going to say the only downside is you can't post your water skiing videos on social media anymore.
Sure you can. Sure you can. You would think that in that case, you wouldn't be able to post your videos, because if you did, you'd be taken off disability, but you weren't supposed to be on disability in the first place. And so what difference is it going to make?
Yeah, the old comedy trope of the guy who puts on the neck brace just to go to court to get his ruling for his lawsuit in his favor. And of course, the minute he gets the the money from the jury, the neck brace comes off and he drops the crutch and he's dancing out of the courtroom. Those days are over because it's not determined.
Those days are over.
It's not determined in the courts. It's a federal bureaucaucracy, and they don't give a damn. They
furthermore,
love distributing the
there will
goodies.
be doctors and attorneys who will come forward and say the reason my client lost his neck brace and his crutches and danced out of the courtroom was for the first time in the last 3 months he was able to breathe enough of a sigh of relief that he's not going to be thrown out into the street by these Republican bastards. So he's actually just celebrating, and he'll pay for this later, of course, with the joint swelling and so on. But you can hardly deny him this. Common sense is gone, at least in California. Law is gone because law is the enforcement of common sense. And so what is the president to do? If any judge on any circuit court in the country, if any one judge on any circuit court in the country can simply issue a stop order and the border wall or immigration is ground to a halt because some judge somewhere says, no, I don't think I like this. Yeah. No, I don't like it. And then the entire thing comes to a halt. Then this is not a republic anymore, and we're left with the cards we're left with. Okay, well then let's make it a national defense issue.
Okay, so now remind me, what was your topic?
He just said it right there at the end. The border wall is national security.
The border and national defense. Thank you.
But I'd love to get into all of this because I'd like to get into what you were saying. I think it's really important.
It's like
that was a hell of a segment we just didn't tape.
Yes, this is kind of sort of the right angle equivalent of Roots, the miniseries, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
We're just going to cover everything. Okay, so that's for the
main
world.
One, I think.
At large.
I think so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the main one is off an article on PJ Media, or as I suppose we should say, the former employer media. No, PJ Media and Roger Simon has a story there called "Is Hollywood Dead?"
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
And the answer is yes.
Yes.
And
now you don't have to read it.
Now you don't have to read.
I'm going to talk about it anyway.
But I want to talk about why it is in fact dead, has been dead, and continues to be. It's an appendix. It's a vestigial, organ from the 20th century that is rapidly running out of steam
and cancerous.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely right.
As far as I can tell these days, there is no Hollywood. Every film is financed in China and made in Georgia.
Mm-hmm. But it's absolutely true. Financed in China, made in Georgia, and the decision to greenlight that film is made in an area probably 2 miles square on the other side of the hill behind the Orange Wall by people who become more and more disconnected and disgusted with the American people every day. So, I think that's
They're
really,
just a bunch of bean counters and gamblers. Like Hollywood is not really creative people anymore.
No, I don't think. Well, I wouldn't call them bean counters and gamblers. That's too common sense a term for what they do.
Sorry.
The bean counters are essential because you have to cross collateralize all the profits that nobody gets any back, and that's why you need the bean counters.
Yes.
What was the other one? Bean counters and
gamblers.
Gamblers. Every movie's a gamble, but these aren't gamblers. These are cadres. So since it's Chinese money, and since it's shot in Georgia, they can afford to make the movies that make them look good at parties among other people like themselves. And so the movie gets seen by 400,000 like-minded people, and it's a critical smash, and it loses tons of money, which doesn't matter to them because they all get paid up front anyway.
So they're not really gamblers, they're bookies. They're just taking the bets.
They're not even bookies. They're I guess they're more like politicians than anything else. They're spending other people's money on other people without any concern for the results. Jeremy Boring makes a neat point about this that I'd like to bring up, and when he said that this whole pathology started when Hollywood when we decided that a studio owning movie theaters was a monopoly, and that this was the beginning of the end of our pop culture, because once you cut the cable between American box office revenues and the studio, then it became a situation where it doesn't really matter what we give to the American box office so long as we're getting money from somewhere. if they still owned the studios, and if attendance at those studios was still their major source of income,
the theaters, you mean?
If they still own the theaters, then they'd have to make movies that the American people would want to go see in some numbers. And one or two of these come out every year: Greatest Showman, Christopher Robin, and they do pretty well. American Sniper, but you can name one or two a year, and the rest of the stuff just comes out and it's utter
The only
bilge.
consistently high quality product at the local theater, as far as I could tell, is Milk Duds. Milk Duds, although there are fewer of them than there used to be.
You said Junior Mints wrong.
I would be very curious. I'm serious now. I'm really quite serious about this because I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. I'd be curious to know if Milk Duds are made in the United States or whether they've been outsourced.
They're made in Georgia with Chinese money.
You know what my criteria, my criterion is for whether or not I'll go to a movie? The movie theater has to sell Kit Kats. That's it.
Okay, fair enough.
Because Kit Kats and popcorn together, you got your sweet, you've got your salty, and they both have the same crisp level. It is the perfect combination ever.
Awesome.
And you know that those movie theater candy bars are better than the average candy bars. When you taste a $17 candy bar,
it's the best chocolate in the world.
You can taste the quality.
Yeah, absolutely right. And one of the things I think I'd like to talk about too is not only is Hollywood dead, but what's coming up, what's next. And I hope I can remember to think about the interesting observation that that I'm aware of, no one has ever gone to a movie based on what the budget of the movie was.
Yeah.
Oh no.
No one's ever gone to a movie based on the budget.
I was recently.
Your budget will buy you a lot of things that will get people to the movies, but no one's ever said, "Oh, this film is only an $18 million film. There's a $32 million film playing in the next theater.
Yeah.
I think I'll go see that one."
Nobody makes a picture for $32 million anymore.
It was like
Suckers.
Tom Peters said years ago. It's like nobody thinks of Winston Churchill as the guy who brought World War II in on time and on budget. You know. Recently I got to spend some time with some relatives, and so we're there in the evening. We've got a TV. We can watch anything we want. We've got streaming services. And you know what we did? We sat around there with our phones and queued up YouTube videos for each other. We were sharing YouTube videos that we had seen before, each one of us.
Absolutely. Have you guys seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen this?
Yeah.
Have you seen Epic Rap Battles in History? They released a new one after like 2 years. It did 4 million views in a day or 2 days or something. And those are beautifully produced. This is still my favorite thing on the web.
There's a new one with, I think it's Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk or something like that.
That's the first one in a long time. Yeah. I thought they were done, but it looks like they're starting it up again.
I haven't watched it yet.
My 12-year-old has started the separation process. He now spends a lot of time texting with a girl. And, just weeks ago, girls were the evil other. So mostly now our communications consist of him texting me links to YouTube videos of stuff he likes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, cool.
Almost 13, and it shows.
Ghostbusters versus Mythbusters. I think I'm actually going to include a clip of that.
No, please. Because
then we get...
That's right.
That's right, we'll get shut down again.
It's copyright violation, that WKRP nightmare.
Scott is my witness. I thought we could share WKRP videos.
Well, in this case, with Scott as your witness, we cannot.
Do you think they do it for? I think they analyze the audio, not the video, right? Although I know that a lot of people when they want to run a movie clip, they reverse the video.
Really?
They'll either flip it left to right, or they'll zoom in on a smaller part of it, something to throw the algorithms off the trail.
Wow.
This is now conspiracy to commit copyright violation, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Now, and everyone can tell, because when the Band-Aid is on the wrong side of Les Nessman's head...
We will link to it in the description.
Yes, we will link to it, and we will encourage you to give money to the Patreon account of any provider that we link to. No. Oh, give it to Bill. Never mind. Okay.
To us.
So, Stephen Green,
I'm paying everybody.
Your episode is only going to be seen in select theaters, and then it will go immediately to streaming.
It's going straight to video.
Commentary.
VHS.
It's kind of like Land Before Time 7.
Yes. Oh, wow. I forgot. We used to have all of those movies for when my oldest was quite young. Wow, Scott, if you want to save me for last, were were you sure about
Okay.
your topic? Because
Yeah.
I've been working on mine all morning, believe it or not. So I'm
not.
I'm
I'm
solid
not
with it.
exactly champing at my own petard to do this.
So you do want me to go first?
No, it's okay. I'll go.
No,
Well
'cause
done
I'm ready to
well-
go. I just wasn't sure
well
if you needed
done.
more time or if you wanted me to go second because you wanted to make sure I didn't step on the thing that you just put together.
I
No.
just want to say, well done for champing at the bit rather than
right.
chomping at the
Yeah,
bit.
it's champ
Well
sack.
done.
I'm
Well
hoist-
done. One
I'm
person
hoist
in
on my own
100 gets
bit.
that.
So anyway, so there's this. This is kind of a weird topic, guys, because Bill hinted at this idea that President Trump met with future House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and future Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer in the White House. Apparently, according to Rush Limbaugh, anyway, the Pelosi and Schumer weren't really expecting cameras to be rolling when they
No, they
came
were
in there,
not.
but. She has promised the most transparent Congress ever once again, and so I have not yet seen the video of that. Okay, so this really isn't about what actually happened there. What this is about is this Reuters story that I read that starts with the headline: Trump, comma, top Democrats openly spar in Oval Office over border wall. And Steve and I were talking before we came on here about the fact that we did not realize that the border wall is actually in the Oval Office, but apparently it is. And so what I would like to do in this episode is just kind of scroll through this story and just read you some of the account because it just seemed like each paragraph, one after the other, became sort of more surprising and perhaps offensive to many. But this is a this is the moment that a lot of people have been looking for, a chastened Donald Trump, having lost a lot of seats in the House of Representatives, barely held on to his majority in the Senate as the leader of the Republican Party. And
Increase
now,
the majority in the Senate.
now there was going to be this ceremony where he hands his sword to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And it just,
Not
at
gonna
least
happen.
according to this Reuters story, it didn't quite turn out that way.
He didn't seem too chastened to me.
No. In fact, one of the things he said, Chuck Schumer hit him with the Obama line. He said elections have consequences. And Trump came right back and said, yeah, they do. That's why the country is doing so much better now.
Oh, wow.
So this is what it's going to be. Do you remember what I said when we
You did.
record? I said the 2020 election starts the day after the Democrats take the House, and boom, here it is.
And we've said it'll be interesting to see Donald Trump actually be able to attack somebody who's not a Republican and just, let him have it.
Yeah.
I thought it was epic.
Well, and we'll
It's
see
gonna be so
how
much
long
fun.
this, because I'll tell you, one of the things, I'm always willing to go back and revisit things that I've thought and said in the past and think, okay, how's that held up? And one of my concerns, and one of the reasons why I did not support Donald Trump for president, was because I felt that he was such a wheeler dealer that he'd play ball with whoever he needed to get what he wanted. And so if
Au contraire, Pierre.
if at the midterm elections the Democrats took back the majority, especially if they got both houses, then he'd be much more willing to basically go along with the people whose campaigns he used to support with financial contributions when he was merely a business person, like Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. So at least at this moment, it doesn't look like that, and I'm more than delighted to be wrong.
Good.
You know what I'm reminded of? When Pelosi took the gavel the first time in January of '07, she said she was wielding the gavel for America's children. I wonder who she's going to wield it for this time.
America's unemployed 30-year-olds.
Right?
It's the same people.
Same people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know what? If I'm ever speaker, I will wield that gavel for my wife, who makes me kill all the spiders.
On behalf of your wife.
I would have loved to. Would you said?
I think it's
Pelosi
probably-
threatens to use hammer on children. That's what I would have done. Would have done.
She should bring down that gavel of Thor, and on behalf of America's dying tuna industry. Her husband was in the tuna packaging industry apparently, and that's where that family made a lot of money that way. And I just read an article recently that
By depleting the ocean.
the tuna industry is having a big problem. It's not because of what you might think with environment or whatever. Apparently, millennials don't have can openers.
Yeah,
and
I
so
saw that story.
So, so the foil packaged tuna, the reason why that's in the store is not so much because they came up with a brilliant new way to package tuna that keeps it fresher. It's just because they realized that if they don't have it look like a juice box, then they're not, and millennials aren't going to be able to open it.
You know, I never wanted to become what's the matter with kids these days guy.
That's
but
right.
I'll tell you, I knew what me was at that age. I was lazy. I was a smart ass. I had stupid hair and all the other things people tend to do in their high school and early 20 years. But I also knew that I was going to have to set that aside and become a responsible human being if I ever wanted to do the other things I wanted to do with my life, other than growing my hair too long, which was to settle down and start a family someday and try and raise kids to be better than me. But I do know what the trouble with these kids are, and they don't seem to want any of that. They're not starting families. They're not buying houses. They're not cutting their hair. They're just...
They're not opening cans of tuna.
Yeah, they're perpetual junior high school students.
Grow up. One or at least two generations ago, those same people that same age, because they wanted to drive so much and they had so little money, would not just know how to operate can openers, they would construct working automobiles from parts.
Yes.
And they would build a drivable, good-looking car for $300, and they built the whole damn thing themselves.
You know,
we are just doomed.
Let me try this bet here. I don't know if Steve's old enough, but remember that the can opener used to be like a little 3-inch long thing. On one end, it had a bottle opener with a rounded end. On the other end, it had a pointy end because you didn't have a pull tab. You would pop the can open by using this tool to punch a triangular hole in it on one side and then a smaller hole on the other side.
Called a church key.
A church key, yes.
Yeah, we've got one in the wet bar next to between the breakfast nook and the living room. The big can opener, with the big twisty handle. That's the one in the kitchen.
Well, and so that gets to the heart of what I'm going to ask here. Am I the only one on this show who has probably on multiple occasions opened an entire can by taking that pointy end and going all the way around
No,
the
you are
lip?
not the only one on the show.
Absolutely.
But you will be the only person above a certain age who even knows what you're talking about. And I recommend that we see if we can find for this clip. There is, I might reference it. There is a video of a bunch of millennials sitting in a circle with one millennial in the middle with a can opener and a can, trying to figure out how to open the can. It takes 20 minutes. It's hilarious.
Now, in fairness, I don't know if my pop had just handed me the can opener and a can, if I would have immediately known what to do with it if I'd not seen him
you would have.
do it before.
I will admit this now. The little tiny little ones where you had to kind of cock them at an angle and then you twist them and then they cut. Those were a little tricky. Yeah. But
it's so obvious. You've got two wheels that when you push the levers together, you can just see what it does. This is not
a cutting
rocket
thing,
math.
right? It's a cutting thing. See this? It's sharp and it's round. It's a cutting thing, clearly. Now, are we going to cut the middle of the top? Are we going to cut around the edges?
The most miraculous thing I ever saw was the kind that cuts the top off from the sides rather than the top. And the first time that happened, it was like, it was as if the top of that can had levitated, off.
Yeah, I never had one of those.
Oh, it's amazing. So anyway, Steve,
we got off topic.
Did I stall long enough to keep you from having a topic, or did we have one?
Well, never mind what I thought. I think maybe I just needed another cup of coffee. I want to talk about the yellow jacket, yellow vest protests going on in France, because we have the people making the headlines are the French youths, that's your usual French combination of communists and anarchists and socialists and all the rest who just like a good riot to set fire to cars and smash the state and all the rest. But what's really interesting is maybe you guys saw this on Instapundit this morning. Claire Belinsky, who I've been reading since the early days of blogging and who's just an old school journalist in the original sense of that word. She was actually talking to a different group of protesters who sound an awful lot like a French Tea Party.
Imagine my surprise.
Wow.
Yeah. This is not the angle I was expecting. But, one of the groups I should have mentioned, the guys who like to start barbecues and all the rest, of course, the Muslims along with the anarchists and the communists and the socialists.
Barbecues?
Barbecues, yeah. It's a fine French dining tradition.
See, when you first said that, I didn't get the connection, and I'm thinking, oh, some American guy is barbecuing on his engine. He's like, he pops the hood, and he's cooking meat on the engine.
Yeah,
he's talking about Fiat flambés.
Parisian barbecue. Fine, time-honored tradition. Anyway, but a group of basically old white guys from the sticks converged on Paris to start these protests that eventually got co-opted, or quickly got co-opted, by the Muslims and anarchists and socialists and communists. And I want to talk about these guys because they've got a real story, one that we know going back so well to 2009. And, you know, our Tea Party kind of got co-opted and snuffed out. Maybe the French will fare better. We'll see.
See, that's the problem with doing a good, like a mass movement of any kind, a flash mob, some organized public effort, because inevitably those things get taken over by thugs. Like even, you know, I'm thinking back to the 60s and the civil rights marches, and then all of a sudden some jackwagon who had insinuated himself into the crowd throws a brick through a glass window, and then everybody else is like, oh, those violent black people doing this, you know.
The leftists with the racist signs at the Tea Party gatherings.
Yeah, because we know they're racist, even though there are no signs saying they're racist, so we have to provide the racist signs necessary to prove that they're racist, because there is no evidence that they're actually racist, but we know they are.
But we know they are, yeah. Yeah, because reasons, Bill.
Because reasons.
And Bill, I'm sorry, because I was trying to make notes here. Your members episode was what again?
Is Hollywood dead?
Hollywood dead, okay.
And what's in the future?
Dead, okay. I see dead people in the future. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, this has been one of the best backstage meetings that non-members will never see. And I think our mission on Earth really is to make sure that there are fewer and fewer of those people who don't get to see these things that you enjoy so much. And I know you share that mission with us because we see you all the time sharing on social media and telling us about how you're talking to your friends and trying to get them to watch that crazy Bill Whittle, that zany Stephen Green, and that eminently sensible and handsome Scott Ott. So we really appreciate all of that. We appreciate the $9.95 a month that comes from our members, and we are grateful for the opportunity to go at this again this week. So for Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members at BillWhittle.com for making Right Angle possible.